It's the premise to a tragic story we've all heard time and again. The rise of a young star before they come crashing back down to earth.
I'm sort of glad it happened, though. It opened my eyes up to a lot of things.
And taking a look into the troubled life of Leif Garrett reveals some particularly nasty surprises, with some very near fatal consequences for some innocent people. But we might also see a silver lining in all this wreckage, with Garrett himself ready to use his life as a warning to other young stars. But how did we get here?
Took my mind off of frivolous things like sex and decided I want to become a professional singer.
Welcome, I am your host Nostalgic Nick, with all these answers and much more. If you enjoy our rewind today, please give this video a thumbs up to help it circulate, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a new deep dive. But now, without further ado, let's look at the full picture of Leif Garrett. How did Leif Garrett get famous? Things started off as a real rags to riches story for Leif, who grew up with his father absent for most of his young life. So it was kind of a dream come true for that neglected kid and his fellow acting sister Dawn Lynn, when he landed work in a movie for the very first time at just 5. Finally, attention in the most glamorous job in the world. But sadly, his messy relationship with Dad would be an ongoing issue for his entire life, with even more baggage where that came from. After his dad bailed when Leif was 5, he remembered, quote, "I saw him for a half hour when I was 16, and then I didn't see him again until my 40s. But for now, stardom awaited. He began with bit parts, but as he grew a bit older, his charisma and looks helped him rule the 1970s.
Who caught that big bass?
I did.
Well, good girl.
Well, I caught one too.
Oh, you always do.
He was easily promoted as the next big teen heartthrob, and quickly his credits began to include Gunsmoke, 3 for the Road, Walking Tall, and much more. Now this kinda set the stage for Leif Garrett's real ticket to stardom, music. But along the way, it also set him up for the worst crash landings we've ever seen. You see, Leif was just 14 years old when he began to do drugs. And by the end of that year, before Leif could legally drive, he was a regular at bars. What was Leif Garrett known for? He's been hailed as the original Justin Bieber, the first music idol before him or Justin Timberlake became every girl's first crush. Leif reveled in being on posters on bedroom walls across America. His fame rocketed to new heights when he broke into the music scene. But it was here that Leif faced his first major dilemma. He kinda had something of a wholesome image attached to him, but with a rebellious streak that's so associated with teen years. As far as he was concerned, getting into drugs kept him in those glorious younger years just a bit longer. Leif once explained, quote, "I think part of my drug use was that I didn't want to get older. I wanted to stay that rebellious 18-year-old, just thinking I was Superman or, indestructible." Leif once said that when in the thick of all that fame, he believed, quote, "Oh, this is going to be forever. I am God." But just as suddenly as he became a household name, things began to waver. Everything kinda peaked with "I Was Made for Dancin'." But then, Leif began to feel like he wasn't even part of his own music. He had no love for surf music because he wanted to, quote, "do more original things." His favorite was Led Zeppelin and not the Beach Boys. And his request to begin to make music for an older audience was ignored. On top of that, there was a point when the producers brought in a backing singer whose voice was so loud in some parts that, quote, "if you listen carefully, it's just not me at all." It got to the point that Leif felt like his own musical career was, quote, "a lie." Leif had a front row seat watching his co-stars from The Outsiders grow into their own, while he was stuck singing about being a heartthrob. And so he leaned into that crazy drug lifestyle even more. Probably the biggest insult to injury was when his music producers told Paramount and Universal he was done with them. They started up their own production company and had him star in a film all about foosball. Wow, exciting stuff.
How in the hell do you intend to finance this little venture? By winning the foosball spectacular in Lake Tahoe.
Was Leif Garrett in an accident? Sometimes it's hard to see when we've hit rock bottom, but Leif had a pretty distinct crash landing. Literally. He was shy of 18 years old when Leif and a new friend, Roland Winkler, went pretty hard at a party, indulging in drinking and drugs. And with all that splashing around in their systems, they hopped into Leif's Porsche and sped off. Are you feeling a looming sense of dread yet? Well, it's very warranted. Their car, with Leif behind the wheel, ended up rear-ending another vehicle. They went spinning and flying right off the freeway embankment. Neither one of them had their seatbelt on. Kinda miraculously, both men survived, but at a huge cost. Roland, who made a living as a dancer, was left a paraplegic. Leif was totally unharmed physically, but ended up locked in a messy legal battle. Winkler sued Leif as responsible for the crash, and Garrett was charged as a juvenile with drunk driving. He was put on probation and had his driver's license suspended for a year. The jurors put the estimated damages at over $4 million, but subtracted some because Winkler got into the car with someone he knew to be under the influence. Ultimately, however, Winkler settled for $6 million. Even if he'd had been asked to pay zero, Leif was completely messed up in his own way about the accident. Years later, he thought about it and said, quote, "I have really hardcore nightmares and sleep issues. All of those stemming from guilt that drove him further into his drug problem.
I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm really sorry that that this happened to you."
Is Leif Garrett clean? We've heard of a star falling from grace plenty of times in one way or another, but the original teen idol's legal battles are the stuff of legend. AV Club reports that Leif was just 17 when he could afford to buy his first house, and by the time he was in his 30s, he had to sell everything he owned to support a habit that could cost him $300 a day. This messy road led him in 2010 to one felony charge of H possession. Leif had to post a $10,000 bail and agreed to a court-ordered rehabilitation program. You might also remember Leif from season 4 of Celebrity Rehab, but Leif claimed the producers wanted to spice things up by pressuring him into taking drugs on camera. You know, threatening to completely set him back. This former teen idol, a household name adored by millions, stepped away from the camera to mostly keep to himself and lead a quiet, clean life. And you can check all of this out in his memoir, Idol Truth. But during this quiet time, Leif pondered a lot about his mistakes. With the benefit of hindsight, Leif outright said, quote, "I was a monster. I'm sorry that actions that I've done have hurt people." Luckily, by 2020, Leif was sober and spoke openly condemning his past and warning others not to repeat his same mistakes. His absentee dad popped up just near the end of his life after he fell ill, leaving his son to be a caregiver. His father got worse and died with a lot of loose ends left. Leif remembered, quote, "He wasn't able to give me what I wanted. I'm still beat up from that because I really wanted to get to know him. I wanted to understand so many things I never got answers to. Sadly, that, like smooth sailing through stardom, wasn't to be. But Leif found calmer waters eventually. As of 2020, he was working on a follow-up book, while also taking care of his mother, who he felt would be passing soon. Leif Garrett enjoyed fame and worship the likes of which none other has really ever seen. He was the first, and he was the ultimate cautionary tale for so many more to come. Sadly, learning is still hard to do, even with a prime example. But even Leif figured himself out after a while. So, what do you remember about Leif Garrett? Did any of you have his poster on your wall? His 8-track in your car? What is your favorite song of his? And was he your first celebrity crush? If not, who was? Please get in the comments and tell us all things Leif Garrett. If you enjoyed our deep dive, please hit that thumbs up icon to show your support. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss a memory. But most importantly, from all of us here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you very much for watching.